deliver innumerable sentient beings,
I vow to
vow
cut
to
off
go to endless
fixation.
vexations,
I vow to
vow to
master
master
limitless
approaches to
Dharma.
Dharma,
I vow to
vow
attain
to attain
supreme
supreme
Buddhahood.
Buddhahood.
Very good. Welcome to you all. I think today's March 7th, 2021, our regular Monday night class. And today we're going to go to the Shurangama Sutra, a sutra that I really like presenting from. And in this one here, this is, if you can read that, the 50 Skandha demonic states, or demon states, I guess he calls it. Sometimes it's referred to as demonic states. Don't worry, this is the volume 7 of the Shurangama Sutra. In referring to demonic states, it is not as you would think. If anything, you're the demon, or your illusory ego is. But it is, let's say, a part of the Shurangama Sutra saying, if you practice this sutra sincerely, you really get it, and you practice it well, then you're going to run into these circumstances, and these circumstances can be quite beneficial to you, or they can be quite harmful. And I'm going to talk about that, and we'll follow along also with Master Shen Hua. Master Shen Hua, for those of you who did not know him, he was from the Thousand Buddha Temple up in Northern California. He was a very good practitioner, a very great master. And he didn't shrink from talking about these kinds of topics, where some people will go, oh no, you can't talk about that. Don't ever talk about power. Don't ever talk about this. And because I came also from a Qigong practice, I was very familiar with this. And to me, it's something that I feel comfortable talking about. Some people may feel uncomfortable listening to it, or thinking that this is something very exotic or crazy or whatever. It is what it is. And I kind of share Master Shen Hua's spirit in terms of presenting these kinds of topics, simply because they're not about talking about ghosts or demons per se. It's talking about how, as you practice, the skill sets that come with a more perfected practice, and which I hope that each and every one of you will at some point encounter. But if you encounter this, then you will be well equipped to deal with it. Because if you don't have this kind of a practice, then what happens is that you will become confused. And it's a shame, because you're getting closer and closer, and all of a sudden you get confused, and there's no necessity for that. So Master Shen Hua is someone that understands this. He understands it from a first-hand basis, which is good in terms of this, but his wisdom is very deep as well. And that's what kind of gives this kind of a guidance with this. But in any case, let's get going with this. And thank you, Susie, for the name Master Shen Hua. And if somebody has it in Chinese, you can type it up in Chinese as well. So we begin. And again, this is the 7th volume of the Shurangama Sutra, after you've gone through the whole thing. And now there's this volume here. And kind of as one of the sides, in terms of this, when I was beginning to practice for the first time, after reading the Diamond Sutra and the Huineng Sutra, I went to actually one of Master Shen Hua's temples, and was asking the people there, what should I learn? What should I study? I don't know what to study. I'm so green. I have no idea where to begin. And what was funny was is that then they drew me to the Shurangama Sutra. So I bought up all the volumes of Master Shenhua's Shurangama Sutra, the 6 volumes. I didn't even know that the 7th volume existed at that time. And it might have come afterwards because it was in a different type of binding and presentation than the other ones, which were a little bit more crudely prepared, but nevertheless, the material inside was good. This one is more like traditional book. In any case, this was my exposure. And so looking at this, when I got to the 50 demonic states, it was something that was I understood to the extent that I had run into things within my practice of Qigong. In the practice of Qigong, there's, outside exercise, bringing in Qi. And then there's mind training to it. And there's quite a bit that goes on. And we'll see as we go along. I won't reveal it now. Let's get to it. So it starts. At that time, the Tathagata was preparing to leave the Dharma seat. From the lion throne, he extended his hand and placed it on a small table wrought with 7 precious things. But he turned his body, which was the color of a purple golden mountains, and leaned back, saying to everyone in the assembly and to Ananda, those of you with more to learn, those enlightened by conditions, and those who are hearers, have now turned your minds to pursue attainment of the supreme Bodhi, the unsurpassed wonderful enlightenment. I have already taught you the true method of cultivation. Again, here he's saying, okay, you've gone through my Shurangama Sutra. You've read all of that, or if you were there, you would listen to him expounding on the Buddha Dharma in what is now known as the Shurangama Sutra. And now he's saying, you still have something to learn. There's still something that's missing. And that's why he's referring to them as more to learn, people who are sound hearers, Shravakans. Now, I'm going to tell you more. You are still not aware of the subtle demonic events that can occur when you cultivate samatha and vipassana. Samatha is the practice of concentrating your mind. Concentrating your mind leads you into a samadhi state, a very stable state, but it's required to have the concentration to be able to get there. But this road of the practice is kind of filled with all sorts of pitfalls if you are not aware of that. And you can go down side streets and think you're still on the path, but you're not on the path. You cannot recognize a demonic state when it appears. It is because the cleansing of your mind has not been proper. You will then be engulfed by deviant views. So when you are practicing and you're putting so much attention onto developing samadhi power, your vipassana, the true wisdom, is waning, and you're just going full bore with trying to develop this other side. But developing the other side without the wisdom leads you onto paths that aren't truly on the way to cultivating this Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, this highest perfected wisdom, because that's weakening out because there's so much on this side in terms of focusing the mind. You may be troubled by a demon from your own skandhas. Again, skandhas: form, sensation, perception, volition, consciousness. This is what they call a heap. just a bundle of stuff that we think that is all there, and we think it's all integrated into the idea of a self, but it isn't. As we begin to examine it, we begin to see the joints in there and begin to see that they're actually not really connected. And from this shaky viewpoint, then what happens is then the mind is left into a situation where it is not clear. We think it's clear, mainly because we don't even know what clarity of the mind is. We think, oh, clarity of the mind is like if you have a problem with your eyesight, you put eyeglasses on and you can see everything so clearly. But there's not wisdom. The wisdom is what's there that sees it clearly, until a point where there's not even the wisdom that one relies upon. So this is very, very important. And if you don't understand that, then you can create your own demon without even knowing about it. And so they're saying here, or a demon from the heavens. You go, what the heck? What do you mean a demon from the heavens? I thought everybody in heaven was like really, really cool. But the thing is that when we have these, this kind of a thinking, we don't even know that this is a demonic state, an unstable state. We think, oh, wow, look, I'm really getting all of this information now. And you can even be persuaded by some force, a formless force that can talk to you and give you like, hey, do you know such and such? Really? And then you kind of side along with them and you don't even know that. And the people that have that kind of problem, they don't even know that they have a problem like that. So some of what I'm saying probably isn't too clear to you, but it will in time. Or you may be possessed by a ghost or a spirit, or you may encounter a Li ghost and a Mei ghost, Li and MEI. If any of you that are Chinese speaking, can you give me a definition of that? I couldn't find that quite readily on the internet. Li is one type of ghost, and the other one is MEI. So if you can tell me what the definition. There, thank you very much, Skandha. At least you know what it is in English. But in any case, they're talking about these ghosts that can vex our mind. And it says, if your mind is not clear, you will mistake the thief for your own son. It's very, very, very strange. If you see people that have some kind of a possession like that, it's very odd. I once had someone come to my house, and they came. It was a young man, excuse me, and I took him to my backyard. It was like a warm summer evening, and he didn't quite say why he wanted to come to see me, but when he came, I said to him, you know, that you have three entities inside of you. And he said, yes. I said, one of them is a little girl and two are older men. And he said, yes. And I said, well, how did you get them? And he said that I was sitting and I decided, or I heard a voice, and it was this little girl that said, it's okay, we can come in. And then in they came. And so this young man had these three entities sharing his consciousness and his body. The entities felt very comfortable because now they're kind of like a hermit crab, and then they're inside of his body. Very, very strange. But when we see something like that, we have pity on them. So I told him, I can take them away from you. And he right away, he stood up and didn't say another word and walked back into my house and out the front door. His mind was clearly not clear. And I felt sorry for him because he had something in him. Now, whatever he was practicing, and it might not have been the practice of Buddha Dharma, it was probably some kind of a mystic type of practice that brought him to this deviant behavior, or these things that are in him. And so he didn't really understand that, but they had already taken control of his consciousness. Now you may think, well, this is kind of weird, or this is baloney, or whatever. It doesn't matter to me if you believe it or you don't, as long as you understand that these things are possible. And if you run into enough people, they can tell you that you can have things like this, or information that's imparted to you, and you will, it will affect you and you don't even know. Once I was at conducting a retreat, and one of the retreatants, which is a very good practitioner, was moving around, just moving around, and he couldn't stay still until finally I called him in and talked to him, and I said, "You've been messing with something. You've been messing with some other practice." And then he thought, and he said, yes. And he was with, I had a Taoist master. These Taoists, you have to watch out for. But in any case, he had this Taoist master, and the Taoist master had done a ceremony. And at that point, when he did that, he was given a name. And so I said, what is the name that he gave you? And he said, constant motion. And I went, voila, there you are. That's what's happening to you. And I said, oh, he gave you a certificate. And he said, yes. I said, is it here? He says, it's in my glove compartment. I said, oh, good. Go and burn the certificate. And he was shocked. And I said, what's the matter with you? And he says, because this morning I woke up and I had a cigarette lighter in my pants, and I don't know where it came from. And I said, don't worry about where it came from. Just use it to burn the certificate. And so once he did that, he was able to sit down and practice without moving anymore. As strange as it sounds, if that person would come forward, they would certify what I'm telling you. Very strange, but these are kinds of states we can get into, either whether we're practicing with Chan or practicing a very deviant practice. I'm not saying he was practicing a deviant practice, but there's a lot of them where Satan worshipers or cult worshipers, and they're really messed up. But here, even if you practice Buddha Dharma, you can be off the path. So that's very important that we're careful about that. I once knew a Tibetan Lama, or at least he still called himself a Lama, but he always had a big entourage with him. And he was so far off the path, but he didn't know it. And he had obtained the skill of being able to tell people's fortune. And so everybody huddled around him, and they always wanted to hear, what am I going to do? What's going to happen to me? Will I find love? Is my wife cheating on me, or whatever it is? Or is my girlfriend cheating on me? Or they're both cheating, whatever it was. He was able to give these answers to the people. So the people thought his level was very, very high. Practicing Qigong for so many years, I was not impressed. This is a very, very low level skill, truly low level. But he thought it was way high, and he had all these people to support him. And because he could tell their fortune, they held him up, for great adoration. But I felt pity for him because he was clearly off the path. He was no longer talking about wisdom and Buddha Dharma. He was just there receiving all the allocates from the people around him. he didn't really understand what the true powers were. And one day, at that point in time, I was married, and my wife befriended him, and I was at work, and I just stopped and I said, I called her up and said, this Lama is coming to the house right now. And she said, yes. And I said, okay, I will be there. Because I was telling her, be careful with this one. He's not on the path. So I got there, and his entourage were waiting in the driveway. They didn't come into the house because they couldn't go into the house because they felt an evil presence. And he went in, and he was talking, and he said, you're like behind me, my altar. And he was pointing and saying, all of these you shouldn't read the Dharma to. And she was one that read the sutras all the time. He said, you should not read the sutras. They all have a demon inside of them. What? And I just went to her and I went, do you see what I'm saying now? That he's so far off the path, he doesn't know anything. He's like so off, he's going in the reverse way and discouraging people to practice. This is truly a demonic state. Very pitiable for him to be this way. I don't know what happened to him, but I wish him well, and I hope somewhere along the lines he got back onto the right state. But that's how easy it is that one can be in this way where we see that things that aren't as they are, and so that is from the skandha, from our failure to properly ascertain things and the discrimination within the mind. We lost the ability. That's why the sutra was there, to protect people like that, because at one point in time, this particular lama was a very good practitioner. Otherwise, he would not have been able to get this kind of a skill. So we can, and Master Shenhua talked about it this way: if you invite a thief into your home, then all the priceless treasures in your house will be stolen. Isn't that true in this one, where he was saying, oh, all of your Buddhist statues, they have demons inside, so you should not give them respect. All the value of what he had is gone. It's gone. His ability to use wisdom, it's gone, just like that. What an incredible shame that the thief came in and is now occupying the house. The people that were the one young man that I talked about, he was dabbling in whatever it was. He wasn't in the Buddha Dharma, so that was more expected, but it's more pitiable for a monastic to become pulled into this and tricked. So he says, if you want to regain your treasury of the Tathagata, you must first protect your essence, energy, and spirit. If you fail to guard these three, you are allowing your wealth to be robbed. So be careful. We continue on with the Dharma. It is also possible to feel satisfied after a small accomplishment, like the unlearned bhikshu who reached the fourth dhyana and claimed that he had realized sainthood. When his celestial reward ended and the signs of decay appeared, he slandered the arhatship as being subject to birth and death, and he thus fell into a Viki hell. Now, this is pretty scary because this is somebody that's been practicing very well. He has reached the level of an arhat, hasn't gone beyond that, this fourth fruition. And he started to realize that in this heaven, wasn't permanent. Although he had believed he had reached such a high level, he had reached Buddhahood, and all of a sudden he starts seeing that, as it says, the signs of decay appear. Now, to someone in a lower level heaven, up to, let's say, the fourth dhyana heaven, then the signs of decay are very interesting. One of them is the flowers on the gods' crowns wilt. And gods always love to have flowers and throw flowers and stuff, at least in the sutras. So the flowers are wilting. Their clothes become dirty. Their armpits sweat. Their bodies become smelly and filthy, and they cannot sit still. So then I was thinking about myself, and I was going, is that happening to me? I said, no, it's just that I'm suffering from being stuck in my house all day with the COVID scare. So all of a sudden your armpits smell and your clothes become dirty and whatever, and you don't care, and you're sitting there in your sweats all day and sweating. But in this, sorry for the poor joke, but I was reading this and going, oh my God, this sounds just like the COVID-19, situation. But because of what he did, he went down to a VIII hell. A VIII hell is like, if you're going to go to hell, then this is at the very bottom rung of hell. This would be where you would be an inmate with Mao Zedong, and Hitler, and maybe Genghis Khan, or whoever has killed millions of people or whatever. It's hard to get out of there. You can still get out, because we don't subscribe to the Ichanicha practice that says if you do certain things, you can never get out of hell. We still get out, but it'll be a very long time before that happens. So they're saying that this is a grievous error on our part in terms of doing this and misunderstanding, even though this person was a very good practitioner. But he still lacked the wisdom. He had the wisdom of an arhat, a lohan, but he didn't have the wisdom of a bodhisattva. So this is a very important distinction there, saying, you want to be a Theravadan, then you take chances. But if you want to be a true practitioner, then you've got to understand this. You have to follow the bodhisattva path. So there's this little bit of underpinning there that's kind of in there as well, in terms of, that's why they pick someone at this level of an arhat to scare them, saying, oh, because this is where you get up to, you can get to nirvana, but nirvana is still fundamentally empty, but you don't know that. And so you still attach to the idea of a permanence of this body that you believe to be a reward body, like the Buddha, but it isn't in that way. You're just in heaven for a really long time. Okay. So he says, you should pay attention, and I will now explain this for you in detail. Ananda stood up with the others in the assembly who had more to learn, bowed joyfully, and they quieted themselves in order to listen to the compassionate instruction. So here, as a symbol of their sincerity, instead of sitting on the cushion to listen to him, they actually stood up and said, I'm standing up, you have my full attention. This is quite a serious discussion, as evidenced by the fact that they all standing up, and the Buddha is telling them, listen up. You have to listen to what I'm saying. I remember there were times when I was at a retreat and Shifu would be saying something. I'd have my eyes closed And I would be contemplating what he was saying. Then I'd hear, Gilbert, pay attention. This is for you. And so he was actually saying things, but he was pointing the purpose of his lecture to me, for me to get that. So it made me feel like, wow, maybe I'm not paying as much attention as I should. I need to sit up and open my eyes and give him 100% of my attention, rather than going off on a tangent as to what he just said. So this is the kind of seriousness that's happening here, that the Ananda wants to give him his full attention. Remember, we talked about that, where the Buddha in the Diamond Sutra put his full attention towards the audience, but now he's saying to them, put your attention towards me. So we continue on. The Buddha told Ananda and the whole assembly, you should know the 12 categories of beings in this world of outflows are endowed with wonderfully bright fundamental enlightenment, and the enlightened perfect substance of the mind, which is not different from that of the Buddhas of the 10 directions. So now he's espousing what was espoused earlier in the other volumes of the Shurangama Sutra, of the Ekayana doctrine of one mind. And that of all of the sentient beings of different types and origins, they all have this bright fundamental enlightenment, meaning that they have this Buddha nature, this Tathagata Garbha. They have that right now. And but we don't understand that. But that's important for us as a embarking point to have this point of reference. The Buddha told, that commentary. Due to the fault of false thinking and confusion, sorry, for some reason. Let me start that again. I apologize. Due to the fault of false thinking and confusion about the truth. What is the truth? That we all fundamentally have this Buddha nature. Infatuation arises and makes your confusion all pervasive. What is this infatuation? Infatuation is this self-love, self-conceit, this idea of an ego that's there, and we're infatuated with it. It is there. And if you ask Gilbert, what are you? And he would say, give me a donut and I'll tell you. He's infatuated with himself and his desires. He wants everything to be just perfect for him. So all of a sudden we lose this ability to have the state of equanimity. And we're putting me there. And makes for your confusion all pervasive, meaning wherever you look at it from the viewpoint that this world is real, that you are real looking at this real world. Consequently, an emptiness appears. When worlds come into being, as that confusion is ceaselessly transformed. So things come into being. If you look all around, wherever you're at, you brought it into being. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, that's where you're at. If you're at your home and you look around, you see things and say, yes, I see all the things that I have. I got this on this time. I got this statue. I've got this. You're responsible for that. And if you were in a jail cell, you'd still be responsible for it, because that's why you got put that into being, because of your criminal activity. But we don't see that. We go around and think that this is part of us, or somebody else's fault that we're in jail or whatever. But we're literally, wherever we look, if it's a comfortable jail or a jail where we're in prison cell, it's still a jail. And the ironic thing is that the one that holds the keys to the jail is an illusion. We don't know that. We should know that, because the one that holds the true keys is the Buddha mind. But because of endless habitual patterns, we've lost that ability to see that. So the Buddha is setting up who you are before we get to the other part, and how you're going to get lost from that. So this is very, very important, because it's kind of a reprise of what was being said in the Shurangama Sutra, the first 6 volumes. And he continues and says, all of you people who are now present should know, okay, the 12 categories are endowed with wonderfully bright enlightenment, an inherent enlightened nature, a wonderfully bright and true mind. Okay, sorry. Master Shenhua has a thing where he often repeats what was said. So that's why I got stuck on that. I apologize. The next sutra. Due to the fault, so we already read that part. Let me see. Therefore, the lands that are not without outflows, as numerous as motes of dust throughout the 10 directions, are all created as a result of confusion, dullness, and false thinking. So when we look at it, we see, to know all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future perceive that all Dharma Dhatu nature is created by the mind. So he's saying it's created by the mind, but it's created by the mind following Pratika Samappada, cause and condition never fail, due to our confusion, dullness, and false thinking. So this world that we find ourselves in is not real. It is something that's been conjured up within the Skandha. You should know that the space created in your mind is like a wisp of cloud that dots the vast sky. This is very interesting. Listen to this very, very carefully, what he's saying, because this is something that will take you off on a contemplation. You should know that the space created in your mind, now he's talking about space, is like a wisp of a cloud that dots the vast sky. Doesn't that seem like to be reversed? Let me read it again to you. Very interesting. You should know that the space, so now he's talking about space. He's not talking about something. So if we have 2 things, and he's talking about the space that's there between these little motes of dust, it's like a wisp of a cloud. So which is it? He's now talking about the wisp of a cloud between these points. Which one is real, which one isn't? He's speaking from the Buddha mind. He's speaking Buddha Dharma. And that's why it just goes right over you and you can't get it, because you're listening to it with your samsaric ears. Forget about that. You should know that the space created in your mind is like a wisp of a cloud that dots the vast sky. What is the vast sky? Mind itself. It's just this tiny little appearance. And it's why we cannot understand emptiness. We don't know this. Truly, we don't know emptiness. If you know emptiness, then you know your mind. If you think emptiness is just something in space, then you don't really have it. This is important. This is very profound what Shakyamuni Buddha is presenting here. So then he said, how much smaller must all the worlds within that space be? How much smaller must all the worlds be within that space? So the space that's created in your mind, think of the universe and all that's there. There's no space there. It's all in mind. You want to touch the Crab Nebula? There it is. Touch it. What's keeping the mind from knowing that? Just this illusion that we've locked ourselves into. Even one person, if even one person among you finds the truth and returns it and return to the source, then all space and the 10 directions is obliterated. How could the worlds within that space fail to be destroyed as well? Wow. We're in literally uncharted territory here. And you just read over it and go to the next line and not contemplate this. How could that be? What a travesty. We got to take a look at this. Why go on to the next? You think that the next line is going to be better? This is the way we practice. This is the way we contemplate Buddha Dharma. If even one person among you finds the truth and returns to the source, then all of the space in the 10 directions is obliterated. Then how could the worlds within that space fail to be destroyed as well? I once said to my group, which kind of scared the heck out of them, we are destroyers of worlds. And they looked at me like I was Darth Vader. But these worlds, they're an illusion. It's scary though when we talk about that, because if you talk about it to other people, they might go, behind me, Satan, what are you trying to say? But we have to start from the premise that these worlds are an illusion. But did you hear what he said here? It's very, very important. If even one person returns to the source, one person, the whole thing is gone. How is that? If only I could convince one of you to do that, the whole thing goes up. Anybody have the courage to explain that? Let me put it as what Master Shenhua said. Someone says, if so many Buddhas have accomplished Buddhahood and becoming a Buddha is supposed to obliterate space, then why hasn't space disappeared yet? So let me see. Michael's there. You're a quantum physicist. You should be able to figure this out. Come on, step up. Pay your money, take your chances. Nobody? You guys are all looking like you're holding back some gas in your lower cavity. Go ahead.
I think it's this entrenchment, right? So this nascent entrenchment. So there's something moving in the mind, which is an illusion. And as long as it's moving, with it comes space, comes time, comes everything. Something like this.
Yeah, it's very interesting because Master Shenhua really got to the heart of this. Should make you feel uncomfortable because the Buddha is saying something that is perfectly clear. I see Esther's writing on the Chan wall, but it's difficult for us because when he says, even if one person does it, what is the significance of that? It's just very important. We have all night. Nobody want to take a crack at it? Because no matter what, as soon as for that person has that realization, the realization is that it's a dream. How could it not shatter? And you say, but what about the others? Just like Master Shen Yang told me, it only stops for you. So that's what I'm doing here, because it only stops for you. You still have to do it, but that realization is wondrous because it totally shows that all appearances are impermanent. They're not real. You're not real. The mind you use is real. Your identity is not. You're walking around like Clark Kent and yet that's not who you are. That's not your true identity. That's why it all shuts down, and then it reboots, and it all reboots. The only difference is that you know it's an illusion. You know from the heart it's an illusion. This is what the Buddha is talking about here. We're taking it nice and slow so we don't miss this. This is very, very important. When you cultivate dhyana and attain samadhi, your mind tallies with the minds of the bodhisattvas and the great arhats in the 10 directions who are free from outflows, and you abide in a state of profound purity. All the kings of demons and ghosts and spirits and ordinary gods see their palaces collapse for no apparent reason. The earthquakes and all the creatures in the water, on the land, and in the air, without exception, are frightened. Yet ordinary people who are sunk in the dim confusion remain unaware of these changes. So even as we're here in this samsara, we are not aware. It's like in the universe, there's stars dying. Did you know that there's stars dying in the universe? Don't you care? You don't care if a star is dying? How would I know if a star is dying? I'm not on Star Trek. How would I know that? That's what the Buddha's saying here. All of these things are happening. Kingdoms and kings and gods are dying. We're not aware of it. Why? Because we're stuck in samsara. We're stuck in this 2-bit samsara, and their great kingdoms are collapsing and we are unaware of it. Interesting. You have to look at this and see this, that because it's all impermanent. They don't know this. They have not really, truly realized it. So they're stuck in samsara. They're going, is that you or me? And what happened to my flower? And I need a new change of clothes. Something's happening. And how come it keeps shaking? We're unaware of what's happening in our own samsaric realms. We have our samsaric realm here, but it also goes to the God realm. We don't know too much about that. This is very interesting. Master Shenwell is now talking about this one young man. He said, have I told you of my young disciple from Manchuria? He was about 14 years old. He was young. His spiritual powers certainly weren't insignificant. He could ascend to the heavens and enter the earth. He had opened the 5 eyes, but had not obtained the 6 spiritual powers. He actually had obtained them, except for the last one of the 6 spiritual powers, which is the power of freedom. And so he said, when you attain these types of powers, except for the freedom one, then you can become a Lohan or an Arhat. That means the same thing. One's Chinese and then the other is Sanskrit. One day, he ascended to the heavens to amuse himself. So he was sitting there and he had this ability and he went to the heaven. When he got there, the demon king took a liking to him and trapped him in his palace. So he got stuck there. It was an exquisite palace made of transparent crystal-like material. But he was trapped in it. Since he had opened his 5 eyes, he could see his Dharma body being held captive. So he was able to see through the eyes. I don't think he really had a Buddha eye at that point. So I wouldn't say he had it, but he had regular eye, 3rd eye, Dharma eye, and wisdom eye. But there he was stuck. Now, was he stuck there? His physical body was stuck there? No, his physical body wasn't stuck there. His physical body was here. But what we said in Qigong, your double is stuck up there. The double is essentially, let me see if, how did he say it? He could see his Dharma body being held captive there by a demon king. So he came and he told me, teacher, I went to the heavens, and now I can't come back. What he means is he feels out of phase. It's a very interesting thing because when they're out of phase, they don't feel comfortable. They feel like something is missing in them. Now, his physical body could not go there, but this kind of a Dharma body could go up there to travel to see what was there. Because you do not believe this is true or possible, you could not go there. But he could do that. And so when he went there, then he said that, so Master Shenhua said to him, so you're stuck in heaven, huh? Kind of like naughty boy. I said, well, told you to go. I said, who told you to go there in the first place? Like, what business do you have in heaven? You don't have any business going up there. heaven's heaven. You don't belong to that realm. You don't even know what rules apply there. That's why you got stuck there. Someone looked at you coming by and they just, like a Pac-Man, just pick you up, kind of looking at you, one god to the other. What do you got there? Oh, look, I got a human here. Really? Let me see. Well, don't hurt them. And they're just looking at you. Trap. And he said, I thought it would be lots of fun. So I went there to take a look. But now that person up in heaven, he won't let me come back. And Shenhua Master said, if you want to have fun, don't go there to play. Those demons in the 6 desire realms are always looking for an opportunity to destroy the samadhi power of cultivators. Then he said, don't be scared, I'll get it back. I tried to get him back, but the demon king refused to let him go. At that point, he became really frightened and said, he won't let me come back. What should I do? And then Shenhua said, don't worry, I'll bring you back now. And then he used the Shurangama mantra, and the section which he said destroys the demons, and the mantra of the great 5 hearts, the demon palace immediately shattered, and he came back at that time. And then Master Shenhua, I'll have to show you. I don't know if you can read it or not. Let me see. Hold on. Where is it? Right here at the bottom. I don't know if you can read that. That says, this is a true story. You may laugh, but I've done the same thing to go to retrieve people that have been stuck there. So it's true. So I want to tell you so that you don't start thinking that you want to go to heaven without an escort. You have to have a tour guide if you went up there. And I don't give tours anymore. So stop thinking in that way. But it is possible to do that. And it's possible and highly likely that you're going to get trapped. And you see the people that are out of phase. So it's very interesting because Master Shenhua is talking about this, but he's using it because he's showing the power of the mantras, the Buddha mantras, to be able to break these kinds of connection. And when you get the person back, all of a sudden they instantly feel different. They feel better. It's when they're trapped, they feel like they're missing something, like they're kind of a hollow, vacant. And so when they come back, it feels like they all come back together. So it's an interesting thing, but I thought you kind of enjoy the story. Is it true or not? I don't care if you believe it or you don't believe it. The only thing I hope you don't believe is that this world is real. It's a dream. So we'll continue on with this, but this is give you kind of an interesting time tonight in terms of going into this and taking the time to look at the sutras in the right way so we can really see what's going on many levels, from the doctrinal level to the practice level to the experience level. Okay, so I think we're done. So I'll leave it at that, and then I'll take questions. Nobody? This is always like one of those junior high dances where nobody wants to start dancing first. Go ahead, start dancing.
I have a question, Gilbert. This feeling of hollowness, being out of sync, is this similar to unified mind?
No, quite different. In the unified mind, you've tricked yourself into thinking that you're all that. Okay. Using the parlance of today where they say you're all that. Yeah, I'm all that, like I got this. This is like great. When you have this kind of a feeling, it's vacant. You feel vacant. You don't feel complete. You feel that something's missing, like your heart's not beating. It's a different type of a feeling. So it's important to get the people back. So as much as some entity could enter you, if you take your double out, it can be trapped. And I've seen it many times. So I only use the one example, but this is something that when people mess around, see, don't mess around with the occult. No Ouija board, no nothing, no going to a fortune teller. I know you Chinese, you love fortune tellers. They'll mess you up really big time. So don't go and do any of that stuff. This is the rules here. You don't do that. Just keep practicing Chan. They don't know anything that you couldn't figure out yourself. Okay, so it's a different kind of a feeling. It's just I hate to say empty feeling because you might confuse it with Buddha Dharma empty. Okay. Nothing. I thought this would trigger some questions tonight.
Gilbert, I have a question. What does the Dharma body mean?
Here, I use it like in the name, what I would call the body double. It is kind of an essence of consciousness that's there, and it's where he was talking about essence and spirit, that we cultivate these things, but this is the essence of the person that is stuck. It's not something that you could readily define, except that when in a samsaric self, it is part of that samsaric self, this kind of a feeling of the connection with the body here. So when one doesn't have that, and it's apart from the body, it's kind of like, even though you function in here, you still feel like there's something missing there that to make it a totality. So it's hard to explain it other than in that way. It's like kind of I say what we call it a body double. So if you wanted to see something from somewhere else, you could use third eye skill to see it, or a higher level, higher power skill of but you can also send a body double out to somewhere to see whatever you want to see. And that's what goes out, this kind of an essence that goes out. So since nobody's asking questions, I'll waste some time on this. If you're sitting there and you wanted to go somewhere, and please don't try this because I don't want to be pulling you back from some trash heap you got stuck in. You
No.
You can go out to wherever you want to go. And don't worry, it takes you like many, many years to get this. But whenever you go somewhere, you always leave a string here so that you can come back. If you don't have a string here,
yeah.
if you don't have a string here, then some other thing could go, like a hermit crab, there's nothing here. And then all of a sudden, when you come back, you have this inside of you.
Wow.
That's why you don't want to do this. All right.
Hi, Gilbert. I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. What happened to that person? Master Shen Hua. Well, he make a chant, and then shattered the five natural powers. So what happened after that? Does he lost all the supernatural power?
You feel like out of sort. You know that something's wrong. It's possible that you could lose powers in that way because you're kind of held for ransom, and so you either have to negotiate with whoever is holding the person, the double, or you can break it with a mantra. Okay, to me, I'd rather kind of negotiate with them than to and teach them the Dharma rather than trying to break up their house. Because to me, that would be like going and somebody is captured at somebody's homeless shelter, and going there and pulling down all of the plastic and the wood that they have in there and everything, and going, okay, I'll take them back with me. There's no reason to do that, to get them back. And when you get them back, then the person feels like they're whole again. I don't know. Has anybody ever had that happen to them?
And
Nobody?
I still don't understand. I mean, if everything is not real, so how can he be affected by this? I still don't get it.
Because we're still subject to the rules of samsara. We just don't know all the rules of samsara. We only know the rules that pertain to being a human being. And we know the rules of the lower rebirths, such as animals and hell dwellers and stuff like that, kill or be killed or whatever. If you taste good, then I will eat you. This kind of thinking, but we don't know the upper realms. We don't have any experience that much with the God realms or the Asherlo. And so we don't understand those. So if we go and happen to be fooling around, we can enter those realms. Some people, not everybody, very few people could do it. But if you're able to do that and you have no skill set in that or experience or a well-known advisor, then you're really subject to some real dangers doing that, simply because you don't know it. Because it's in samsara, it's created by the mind. So the gods in heaven, they have their own thing. They're not like God's perfect entities. Most of them have no form. So they just, they're there because of karmic forces. But that's why they were talking about how that even the gods, when their world starts breaking down, there's nothing that says they cannot go to hell. So it's interesting because they're stuck in the cycle of samsara. But we go, it's pretty good, you're a god, but it's finite, not infinite. And that's why they were talking about this in the sutra, was don't cling to this stuff because it's still a fistful of sand. Okay. Pretty good question. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Gilbert.
All right.
So one of the things that I've been trying to do for this past long time is actually to try to memorize the Shurangama Sutra. So how does, I don't imagine that it has any particular power just from having it memorized. So how does one use a mantra for the purpose of protection?
Very interesting. I think it was Sogo Rinpoche who defined a mantra is that which protects mind from mind. Think about that. That which protects mind from mind. Everything's created in the mind. The power of a mantra comes from the ability to understand what is real and what is not real. That enables you to become a lion that roars, because it's already that way. So the mantra is something that we use in samsara, and we can use Om Mani Padme Hum. That's one that's very, very powerful. Just like with the mudra, this is a lecturing mudra, but it's also a protection mudra. All of these things, they protect mind from mind. How do they work? Because I'm harnessing mind. I'm putting mind into it, and I'm there with a sword, cutting through all illusion. I don't see this demon to be real. It's just something that's been concocted in the 5 skandha. So seeing that, how is it going to do that? With this sword, I can slice open the sky. But that demon cannot touch me. Only if I give it power that it exists, that it's real. So the power of the mantra is the power of the faith in mind. When we have the power of the faith in mind, we can cause other worlds to rumble. You would not believe that. You know, I can't bring you a video of it, but it's that powerful. So if you understand that and you give the faith to mind, those mantras are going to work, because it literally shatters where they're at. That's why Master Shenhua was saying that he crumbled the palace of this demon king. I don't want to crumble this palace. I just want to get the person back. But that is the power of that. On the other hand, though, what I didn't tell you is that Master Shenhua, he at one point defied a ghost, just a ghost, not a heaven dweller, just a ghost. And the ghost almost killed him because he was too arrogant at that time and believed he could fight with the ghost. So we still have to be careful. You can't go around, just picking on other things, because you have no idea how much power they have and whether you have sufficient faith to stand up to them, especially when they come up and they conjure themselves up into something very frightening. So give that some thought. But the mantra, that's how the mantra works, is but you infuse it with that power. Okay. Interesting lecture today. Any others? I'm surprised. Oh, there we are. Robert, go ahead.
Gilbert, you mentioned everything is created by mind. Nothing is not created by mind. So is this, let's say, demon, which we want to protect the mind from. So is it like a coin? One side is where we have the faith, which is the mind. The other side, flip side of the coin, is the self, the demon. So if we have the faith on the mind, regardless of what the self or the demon conjure up, is the faith will, if your faith is strong enough, it conquer all. Isn't faith the sword that protect you from the demon?
It's the truth. Now, Robert, last night, can you remember whether you dreamed or not?
A funny thing you asked about this. Last night I did have a very scary one, and I did remember.
That's why I'm asking you.
I did. Unless
Sorry,
you knew about the
my
dream.
inside joke. Go ahead. Tell us about your joke or your dream. Television.
It's rare. I never had something like this. I seldom have horror dream, but in the dream, there is a me floating up, and I felt very scared. And in the dream, I still remember Gilbert mentioned about this. So in the dream I say, oh, I'm very scary, and I'm very scared. And I remember Gilbert do this. So I said, I better do this. And I'm floating up, and I know I felt that something is doing something funny upon me. It's very scary. I felt very nervous. And then I recite the name of Buddha while I'm kind of in the middle of somewhere. And then as I recite, and my hand was like this, and then the scare went away, and then slowly came back. Something, I'm not being held up by someone and floating around. I'm kind of settled down. And today, during the real life daytime, I realized that, well, all these are just creation by my mind. It's just a dream. Nothing happened. It's just a dream.
I have to laugh because you don't find it very unusual. I tell you that use this now, but you accessed it.
I did
to help you in the past, which was actually the present at that moment, but it still worked.
It worked in the dream. It worked
because I sent you the message, but it's retroactive. I know you might have told you that, but it's retroactive. But it doesn't matter because in the Buddha mind, there's no present and future. So a future thought or a present thought now can help you in the past. And this is why I ask you about your dream, because it helps me teach the Dharma. Because in this moment, then as you're talking about your dream that has already, let's say, come to pass, or did it come to pass, or is it real? Because show me your dream. You can talk about it, but you cannot show it to me.
Okay.
Why? Because it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Any more than me doing this to you. You're protected. I got you covered. Past, present, future, you're covered.
So money back guarantee.
You'll be fine. By the time you check out of here, you'll be able to decide where you're going to go from your vow. So the thing is, this is just something very interesting to take a look at. You know, I'm kind of bending reality here a little bit, just for the sake of working on this, and you come in on cue with your dream. So in any case, it's very interesting. You know, something that some food for no thought. Sorry, I'm just amusing myself today. I apologize. Any other questions?
Gilbert, one more coincidence. I was thinking and reading Shurangama Master yesterday.
Yeah, well, I got the message. It's very interesting. I do that a lot with Sue. And there's too many coincidences with her and I, you know, in terms of things that are happening. And with Sue, she's always going, is that a coincidence or what? And I'm just laughing, you know, because it's just mind. And when you see this, what happens is, this is what I call a seam in reality. It's like a seam on a sweater, and you go, oh, there. But sometimes it separates, and you can see something that is you get a peek of something that isn't what we perceive to be reality. And as the reality is shredded a little bit, it gives more faith to the mind. And so you say, well, how can this be? How can this do and that? And why do they do that? To show you something a little bit different. So today was a little different, wouldn't you say? And so it is in this way. I'm not going to do this and perform parlor tricks for you. But this is something that's kind of interesting. Just a little bit of food for contemplation. So you'd say, is it real or is it not real? It doesn't matter whether it's real or not real. You just understand, just look into it, contemplate it, and you can figure it out. All of these things are they're all connected in some way. And the more you have an affinity with a person, the more that those things will change, so that you have things that work. And it's very interesting. You see these little scenes in reality. To me, I always joke, this is very mundane and ordinary, but I have excellent parking karma. So on the weekend, I went somewhere and it was very difficult to find parking, but I parked in the most optimal place. And then yesterday, getting a vaccine, and I parked in the best parking spot that was there. It was, and I have to laugh. But if I'm in a line, I have terrible line karma. And if I feel sorry for the people behind me, because I almost feel like telling them, go to the other line, because you're going to be here forever. And even if I'm the first one there, they will change out the cash register at that time, or whatever, or break a bottle. Hey, can you get another bottle of ketchup? Or whatever. So we become aware of these kinds of habitual patterns and interests. And it's very interesting because it helps you. And as we begin to talk more about the Shurangama Sutra, it's going to help you understand how to navigate this samsaric world. And that's what's really good about what's coming up next. Okay, so stay tuned. Okay, any other questions? Well, this one was a fun one. At least to me, I just have to laugh at it. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just don't want to get into any kinds of scary things. Is there any way just not to get into trouble? Thank you.
Is there any way what?
To not getting to the scary trouble things.
Yeah, just be yourself, but don't be afraid of things, no matter what, whether it's something that could happen to you or something that you hear a knock in the dark or whatever. Don't be worried about those things. You have to understand them. You have to understand that demons and ghosts, they're a product of our own creation, mind, not the ego. And so as a result of that, we can be protected from them. So as long as you haven't been doing things or praying to Satan or to, killing a chicken or whatever for sacrifice, you shouldn't be worried. You have the Buddha Dharma, and all you have to do is just use that power, of the Buddha Dharma. If you want to just think of me, I'll help you. In that moment, that's not hard at all. No matter what, I always give blessings to you and everyone else anyway, so you're protected. But that's blessings from mine, not from Gilbert. But it's an easy way to gain access to it. So you'll be fine. So don't be afraid. No fraidy cat, okay? You're coming here and you're protected by the Buddha. You're protected by Guanxin Pusa. So you should not worry at all. So you have a very strong protector in Guanxin Pusa. Okay.
Do this.
That's right. Now, what would be dangerous if you all did that and all of a sudden I started shrinking up, then you'd know I'm an illusion. Okay. I guess that's it for tonight. We'll pick it up next week. Skandha has her meditation starting, I guess, now. So thank you all for being patient, and you're all welcome. We'll see you next week. Amitofo.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
You're all welcome. Thank you,
Thank
Julia.
you, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Good night.
Oh, and I'm feeling better too, even though my voice is.
Thank you.
You will feel good.
There you go.
By 5.
See you